We are ready. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode of Catching Up with Jacob. And here he is, back on the other side of the Atlantic after his long tour here in the West. Jacob Prash. How are you, Jacob?
Jet lag, but well in Jesus. How are you?
Hey, man, doing well, brother. God bless you. Thank you for being with us. And I should say on the West, but you're also in the Far East. So welcome back.
Far East, we were in Australasia, we were in the USA, we were everywhere.
Well, welcome back, and get to have. I'm sure the believers there get to have are glad that you're back.
Yes.
So God bless you, brother. And David Lister in the South. You spent some time together with him, but he's back in Tennessee.
Back in Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee.
Oh, as David likes to put it when he meets somebody, the free state of Tennessee. Just make sure it stays free.
Yeah, that's right.
As long as we can keep it free. Amen.
Yeah, we got good representatives, good senators, and good governors.
Great for Governor Bill Lee. Absolutely. Davey, down under, you don't have a good MP, but nonetheless, we still pray for the leaders there. But Davey, how are you?
Doing good, thanks. And good to be with you all.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless you, brother. Thank you. And Jay, we have to suffer behind enemy lines. How are you?
It's good. Good here in California.
Well, somebody has to live here, right? Somebody has to share and preach the gospel here. So suffering for the Lord. Amen. Well, welcome everyone. And welcome those who are watching live and those who will watch later. Welcome you in the name of the Lord Jesus. This is Catching Up with Jacob, episode 193. Can you imagine that? It started a long time ago with just an idea of having Jacob on and talking about current events. It's led us to here. Some people hate it, some people love it, but the Lord keeps us going. So that's the most important part. And we do want to make a couple of announcements just to make sure where everybody's caught up on it. Jacob, where are you going to be at this? Well, you just got back, but you're going to get on the road pretty soon again, aren't you?
Well, we have a meeting on Saturday, the 24th of August in Preston, England. Details are on the Moriel website on the itinerary page, or just Google more search engine Moriel itinerary. I will be with Pastor Tim Leach. Also on the 25th, I'll be with Pastor Mark Jackson in Hyde at Moriel Affiliated Church in Hyde, which is on the outskirts of Manchester. Next month, I will be in Brno in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be great.
That'll be great. I've been there before, but never been invited to speak there before. This will be my first time there. And then, of course, further on, we have a visit coming up the last weekend of October. I am due to be in Northern Ireland, in Belfast and in Newton Abbey. Those details will shortly be posted on the internet, but it will be at Orangefield Crescent, Agape Christian Church, Christian Fellowship, and it will also be with Pastor Stephen Tremble at Calvary Pentecostal Church in Newton Abbey. That'll be the last weekend of October. And we're also doing a rather large men's meeting in Northern Ireland.
Oh, that's awesome.
Last Friday of October. And then hopefully there'll be a meeting in Donegal as well. That is still being looked at. But all the dates are either posted or will be posted.
Amen.
On the Moriel website.
Jacob, when was the last time you were there?
In Ireland?
Yeah, Northern Ireland.
Oh, less than a year ago.
Okay. See, it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm sure they'd love to have you there, and praise the Lord for that. And looking forward to Jacob. Have you been to Bulgaria? You haven't been down there in a while, have you?
Not in a while, no. But I have been to Bulgaria, and I've spoken in Bulgaria. Yes.
Yeah, some good believers there. Some good believers there. Awesome. Praise the Lord. As long as we can keep Jacob going, keep praying for him. Pray for his health and pray for continual teaching God's word throughout the world. We also continue on our podcasts, and we also continue on being on different channels. We do have one channel that I'd like to mention that it's been around, created, but it's called Moriel Chapel. It's been renamed, so we're going to have our Bible studies there. We're transferring our Bible studies there, and Memorial TV will continue to carry current events, prophecy, and things of that nature. So you're going to continue to hear, Memorial Chapel Bible studies are going to be on that channel. More information, we'll put links all over the place so people don't miss it. But that's coming up, and it sounds like a pretty good idea. We're on Twitter, we're on Vimeo, we're on Telegram, we're on Memorial.tv, memorialtv.org. We are on Facebook, and of course, we're on YouTube, and we are on Rumble, which keeps getting attacked all the time. But by God's grace, I continue on showing our videos, and we're very thankful. And we're on X, formerly known as Twitter. Find us there on Memorial TV. We put some interesting stuff there, and not only interesting stuff, we're going to probably have some new stuff coming up that we'll be able to record directly onto X. So they're doing some good stuff. Davey's keeping me up to date on what they're doing. They do want to challenge YouTube, so it's becoming a good thing. And yes, people have criticism about being on social media and being on platforms everywhere. There's always a level of threat being in any of these platforms and social media. But it's an opportunity to get the word out at this point. And while we have what we have, we continue to use them. Maybe in the future we won't have them, but we have them now. So let's use them for the glory of Jesus and the preaching of the gospel and letting people know what time is it. And right now, well, before I do that, anything else, Dave, Lister, Jay, or Davey, anything that we had to forgot to mention at all in terms of announcements?
Actually, I just have one request too. If you live in Victoria or Australia in general, there's 2 court cases coming up. Please keep in prayer. They both deal with medical practitioners who are suffering for their faith. They could be landmark cases here, especially the one in Victoria. So please keep Dr. Jereth Cock and Joanna Howe in prayer. I think Joanna Howe's in South Australia, but they're under fire for basically expressing their Christian beliefs on. I think Dr. Jereth just posted something that was pro-Christian on social media, and he's had his what do you call it, license taken away. So please keep them both in prayer and for a good outcome for their court cases.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Davey. Absolutely. Hey, can we post that up? Can you guys, Davey, can you put a link on that on our chat, and maybe we can put that up on our Facebook page and let people know to pray, because that's a very important case. When are those cases, Davey?
Oh gosh, let me see if I can find the dates quickly.
Yeah, don't worry about it. If you can't find it, I think they're coming up pretty soon, but I forgot what dates they're coming up. One is in Victoria, and the other one is in, was it New South Wales, or they're both in
South Australia?
Oh, it is South Australia. Okay.
Yep.
Amen. Well, we're going to keep those in prayers, and lots
and
of
it's this coming week. This coming week is.
Oh, it is this coming week. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to put that up. And if you can put that on the link, that'd be great on a chat. People can find out more about it, and we need to keep that in prayer for sure. Just like we keep other believers in prayers. Other doctors are being under attack, pastors are being under attack, teachers are being under attack. Jacob, it seems like the whole world is under the power of the wicked one, which it is.
It really is.
Scripture says.
Lightning is good because he knows his time is short.
Absolutely.
Having said that, so is ours. We need to get the work done to prepare the way for the return of Jesus.
So, Jacob, on that note, let's catch up. Hostages have not been released. Day 300 since October 7th, and this war began when Hamas attacked Israel. 1,200 Jews were killed. Lots of captives, lots of hostages, over 200 of them. We don't know how many are alive. Some are Americans. I know that I was thinking of the 2 babies, the 2 redheaded babies that I forget their name. I think the one's name is Ariel, and the other one, I don't know if I wrote it down. Maybe Spur, Kfir. I don't know how to pronounce that. But we have to pray for them and continue praying for the Jews who are still being held hostage. Day 300, nothing's been done, Jacob, by the UN, the U.S. Nothing has been done by any
American citizens being held.
That's right. There's about 40 of them.
Officials of the CAIR, the Council of American Islamic Relations, most recently their leader in San Francisco branch, has made statements that are pro-Hamas after the October 7th attacks and abductions. Of course, CAIR had its praises sung by George Bush. And of course, 3 times the FBI associated the leadership of Hamas with CAIR with Hamas fundraising. with fundraising for terror organizations, and the CAIR is still allowed to function and exist with both the blessings of Rhino Republicans, represented by the House of Bush, and of course by the Democratic Party. This is what's going on. The week of the attacks, last October, within the first week, the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden White House began warning about Islamophobia in reaction to the attacks, and warning about the plight of the people in Gaza. Right from the beginning, we have to remember it is a political charade when they pretend to have any pro-Israel disposition. That's purely politics. What they say and what they do are two different things. Never pay attention to what a politician says. He's lying. Pay attention to what a politician does.
No, that's absolutely true. So day 300, keep praying and keep being a light unto the Jews. They need to know salvation. They need to know the Christians are praying for them. Jacob, the past week, I wasn't on last week, but the past week, I was in Texas and we're hearing reports. And of course, rockets being shot into the Golan Heights, and the area is called Mashdal Shams, and a community that not a lot of people know. They would consider themselves Arabs, according to what you were telling me. The Druzes and 12 children that were in a football field, were killed by a rocket coming from Hezbollah. And that has made the community, the Druze community, absolutely in shambles. They're torn, they're mourning, and it's an absolute mess. Israel has said that they will avenge, like they would have done if the Israelis were attacked. And it's a community that has been very, very close to the Israelis up in that area.
They're Israeli. The Jews are Israeli citizens.
Yeah, they're Israeli citizens. I'm saying if they were Jews, if they were,
yes,
they would have retaliated the same way. So that's
Jews,
what
the Christians, the Druzes themselves, and even some moderate Muslims are absolutely shocked by what.
Yeah, absolutely, especially dealing with children. So this missile hit 12 youngsters. Other people were hurt, and so now it began a series of events that has led to, of course, the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas, who usually lives in Qatar, but he was wandering in Iran for the inauguration of the new president. Yes. And other ones were killed too. Zadeh, Haj Habib Zadeh, which is RRGC from the Iranian military, and also Faoud Shakur. Jacob catches up on those three events.
Shakur had a $5 million reward on his head from the United States. He was involved in the killing of the United States Marines, the bombing of the Marine barracks during the Reagan administration. You had a tremendous cock-up with Reagan and the commandant of the American Marines. They were left in vulnerable positions. Caspar Weinberger was really a disgraceful person, corrupt. He should have went to prison for some of his other crimes, but he wasn't prosecuted, unfortunately. And Weinberger and the Reagan Defense Department left these Marines in a vulnerable position. Not only that, there was an incident where Reagan's Marines pulled guns on the Israelis to protect Syrian terrorists in the name of a ceasefire. And some people believe that what happened was a ramification of the actions of the Reagan government. It was a total horrible situation with what happened. It was the fault of Ronald Reagan and his administration in part. Nonetheless, Shakur was the primary planner of what happened. And he's had a price on his head for $5 million. Well, the Americans never got him, but the Israelis fortunately did. They also got Diab. Diab was found in a tunnel in an air attack, a subterranean attack by the Israelis following an airstrike, and they identified his remains. And the Hamas leadership tried to deny he was killed, but now it's clear that the Israelis did get to him. What is really interesting is that Ruhi Mustafa, was rumored to have been killed or eliminated in Saudi Arabia. Now, that would be incredible, and it's, of course, being played down for political considerations. But if the Israelis got him in Saudi Arabia, that would be a fantastic coup in itself. But getting Dief and Anaya and Shakur all in the same week is fantastic. I just hope that they get Nasrallah. They really need to take out Nasrallah. And, of course,
the second member of Hezbollah, the second one in command in Hezbollah, you got the senior member of the RRGC, and now you got Naya, which is obviously most people consider him the head of Hamas, all already been eliminated. And of course, has led to this event now, which Iran, Hezbollah, and as well as other organizations, terror organizations, as well as Syria, as well as Iraq, all
and Erdogan in Turkey.
Yeah,
Erdogan in Turkey is blowing his war horn.
Yeah, but he hasn't said anything in terms of attack precisely yet, referring to the attack.
It's to invade Israel.
Yeah, but he hasn't really committed to anything specifically. I'm talking about what specifically happened. Iran is ready to go. 72 hours. That puts us about Friday night, which is tonight. And nothing's happening in Israel. Obviously, they're ahead of us in here in California. They have vowed to strike.
Yes.
Bigger strikes than what happened in April 13th as retaliation for this. Not only drone strikes, missile strikes that have overwhelmed the Iron Dome. So this is urgent news. They have cleared the airspace in Cyprus.
It's a national humiliation to the Iranian government that it happened.
Yeah, the fact that Anaya was just walking around thinking he was in Qatar, and it happened 750 meters away where the president of Iran was, so you can kind of tell where this is at. But Jacob, it's breaking news as of the last couple of days that the world is on the brink of major war. I don't know what is going to happen, but at the funeral with Khomeini there, they didn't have the generals. They didn't have the generals present. I don't know where they were exactly, but there were no shows at the ceremony. And now you have things like Cyprus is clearing the airspace for U.S. and UK planes to fly over to defend Israel. We have a movement by the National Guard in Syria and Iraq going up to the 4th Armored Division, reopening the Golan Heights. So this is ready to go, if not for the hand of the Lord.
We have to understand, by the Israelis taking him out in Tehran, they were sending a signal. They were sending a signal to Khomeini and to the new Iranian president that we can get you too.
Yeah, that is pretty scary to think that if I, thinking like an Iranian, well, what couldn't we do to this guy? And our president was only 750 meters.
That is unclear how they did it. It may not have been a projectile. It may have been a pre-planted bomb. If the Israelis knew the exact room he would be staying in. So it's not even clear how they did it.
It was a precise missile or it was something pre-planned. They both could have been an embarrassment. David Lister, we were there in Texas when this was happening, and we were both shocked that it happened so precise. And the attack on Ismail. And of course, we started hearing rumors about the other guys that were being dropping like flies, it seems like. What's your take on it? I don't think Hezbollah or Iran or any of these organizations are going to be taking and laying down, but nonetheless, they could just be blowing smoke at this time.
Well, there's an old expression the French use, follow the woman. Apparently, many believe that he was at his mistress' place when this happened, and they took care of the problem.
A honeypot. It was they call it a honeypot. All right.
Follow the woman.
Interesting.
Which many a man has fallen into that. So goodbye. He's now got his reward. Allah has rewarded him with eternal hell.
He's got his eternal rewards, all of them. What is not known at the moment, Jacob, is who will strike first. Is this going to be a preemptive strike by the Israelis, the U.S., and the UK, hitting Hezbollah in Iran, perhaps in Lebanon? Or will Hezbollah in Iran, which almost is two sides of the same coin, will hit Israel first? What do you think?
The problem is Iran has to save face. What is probably happening is secret negotiations somehow through third parties. Do this, but don't do that, and the Americans will try to restrain the Israelis as long as you don't do such and such, and so forth. They've got to make some kind of a cosmetic response in the very, very least. I personally think the time for cosmetic responses are over. This should have been ended a long time ago. The Israelis need to kill Nasrallah in Lebanon, as they killed Shakur in Lebanon. They need to make it clear, as Mr. Netanyahu has, that we are going to respond to any further attacks on Israel, and say what they mean and mean what they say. The main problem here has been the Biden administration pandering to Iran as usual, and playing both sides. This is the problem.
According to the intelligence community, Israel is contemplating a preemptive strike
Yes.
because they believe Hezbollah/Iran will certainly do a retaliatory strike. So they believe they need to strike first. So which happens first, I don't know. But you see paramilitary going into the Golan Heights.
Now, but you
see
never know
preppers-
when information is leaked. Is it part of the intelligence game? Is it part of the posturing? You can never tell.
part of the smoke screen in war. So
Correct.
the big movements that we can say there are big movements up in the Golan Heights. There's big movements in Cyprus, which has obviously been the place where even Israel has gone into to fly over Cyprus. So, but that brings Turkey into the mix. That brings Greece into the mix. So, we did contemplate these a
One
few,
thing that could happen
maybe-
is,
maybe
Henry
5 episodes
Kissinger-
ago.
in the aftermath of the Yom Kippur War, Henry Kissinger forced Israel to withdraw from certain peaks of Mount Hermon. And that is where the Syrians have deployed today, at Mount Hermon, and at the base of Mount Hermon. It would be a pretense response for the Israelis to recapture those peaks that Kissinger twisted their arm and made them give up to the Syrians.
Yeah,
That would be interesting.
that would be interesting. Now, Lloyd Austin came out earlier today. It says we will defend Israel as well as the U.S. State Department. A lot of talk. Let's see what happens. But nonetheless, British Airways, United Airlines, Delta have all stopped flying into Tel Aviv. U.S. State Department is level 4, do not travel into Lebanon. So we will see where this goes. And we're almost at midnight in Israel, 72 hours, where obviously it can mean nothing. 72 hours since the time that Iran promised it would retaliate, which means absolutely nothing. It's Sabbath already in Israel. So we have to be praying because we don't want another war. It's an attack on Israel again. And but the most critical part to Jacob, outside of what's going on in Israel, it's what the economy of the world would look like with a war. Iran said they will shut down the Strait of Hormuz. That's about 25% of the oil into the world. And here in the States, that would mean that a lot of things would cost a lot more money, not only gas, but groceries and the transportation of goods. Already with a weak economy, already with the job market today. Jacob, what do you think? Everything's red today. I'm looking at the stock market right now, and a lot of red, a lot of maroon, a lot of brown, nothing green. The job market looks bad. Payroll changes look lower and lower, so there's less workers on the working in the U.S. economy. $300 a barrel. That doesn't sound like a good thing, but what do you think?
I think it would not be as bad as it was had the United States remained energy independent. That's first of all. Secondly, if the United States had acted against Iran when it should have, and not funded Iran, they would not be in a same capacity to do this. If Israel was not being restrained by the Harris-Biden administration, and they were allowed to level Karg Island, they could permanently or semi-permanently eradicate Iranian oil exports on their own right. The United States Navy, in 8 hours, destroyed more than half of the Iranian Navy about a decade, about 12, 15 years ago. They could do so again. The problem has been the weakness of Obama and the weakness and the corruption of Biden and Harris. That is why Iran has this potential to do these things. That is why they're able to animate the Houthis. That is why they are able to do what they're doing by proxy with Hezbollah and Hamas. We may thank Biden, Harris, and Obama for this situation. It did not have to come to this. They could have been incapacitated.
Yeah, and I think that's part of their plan. And part of their plan is to continue on with the Harris. David Lister, payroll Last night we were discussing it, just how bad it is going to get. And we got the answers, the BLS report. In July, 114,000 payrolls were added. So it's a huge miss from the expectation, huge drop on the market from June to July. This is the lowest since maybe December 2020, which we were dealing with another thing at that time, which it could happen again. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it isn't, but it could happen again. But we have to deal with what we have today. Job market is down. The economy is down. People are pulling out. People are shorting things. What's your take on it?
Well, we had talked about, if you guys remember a few months back, about a recession. Well, now everyone on the morning shows and the afternoon shows are talking recession. It looks like the Fed missed the mark. They've let it go too far. High interest rates. The economy is definitely slowing down. Because and one of the things is that every job report that they've had for the last 6 months has been revised downward. Okay. And a lot of the jobs that we actually made, after the healthcare industry, the biggest job maker was the U.S. government, you know. And on top of that, the U.S. government has something like 94% of its employees that are full time working from home. So that shows you that they may not be as useful as they say. But instead, and we were also spending $2 trillion more in debt this year so far. So you've got all these pressures on the economy, overspending by the government, downward pressure of jobs falling off. The earnings for everyone are really low and unexpected. Amazon, they were down last time I looked, I think 12 or 15%. I can't remember, because they're predicting, well, they got bad earnings the second quarter, and they're predicting even worse the third, which means that people are not buying goods. Why? Well, inflation. Inflation is still here. People's money is getting shorter and shorter all the time. And so therefore they're having to cut back. And so that's where there's much pressure there. So, and we are a consumer driven economy. And so this is hurting everything. The market is taking a beating today. It took a beating last week. And then look, even though the past month, the market says it was up and reaching record highs and everything, but it was a very minor amount of stocks. But most of the market was going down, so, and people probably have seen that in their 401s and are in their stock portfolios, that they haven't been doing as well. The first part of the year was actually pretty good, but not this part. So we're looking at some really downward pressure. The margins that people are making on all of these companies are coming in very low. Thus, everything's pulling back. Some people saying that the market is even overpriced as much as 50%. So that could be a very bad pullout. We're actually in what's called a correction already, 10% down already. And I think we're in for a bumpy ride.
So you're saying we should short the market, right?
Well, I think that's the bet that's going on right now.
That's what I'm understanding, David. That's what I'm
it's this, but also, if you own some gold, you're probably liking it, so it's going.
And all kidding aside,
it would hit 25.17 today, which is a record, but I think it had fallen a bunch towards the later part of the day. So not sure where it's at now, but it's still pretty high. So silver is taking a beating, but Bitcoin had dropped a couple thousand. So even though there's great talk about the digitals doing well, they're shaking a little bit right now. And then also,
market and buy Bitcoin, right? That's what you're saying, since it's a low price.
well, they lost last time I looked today, they were down like $3,000. So I don't know.
Perfect. That's a good time to buy.
Yeah. So, but then some people are saying, that, you're having all these big companies where all the money's been going to, they're going down into correction. So now's the time to buy them when they're down, when everybody's running away, get in. So I'm going to look at that myself.
That's
But,
right.
but we also have one other thing, is that the coming cuts by the Fed.
September, right?
Debate now whether we knock it down 50 basic points right away in September, or we just do a bunch of 25 every month till we get it down, coming down all the way to January of 26, back down to the 3 percentile range. So if we can hold off a recession somehow, maybe you can afford to buy a house in the future.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't mean to make a joke about it or anything like that, but it is a terrible thing. But people do make money one way up or one way down, unfortunately. And David, you and I were discussing earlier about as people forget and they begin to fear. Remember, the Lord's in charge of our own personal economy, and I don't want people to misunderstand our own personal economy. And so we see these things happen, yet the Lord is in charge. And when panic's on the street, the believer is supposed to be looking up and looking to Jesus and looking to his word. Go ahead, Jacob.
I agree with what David Lister said. Unemployment is up now to 4.3%, and they're lying about that. And if it wasn't for government job creation, it would be substantially higher, with the Dow taking a plunge by 500%. And a lot of shares, even blue chips, not looking well. However, we always try to look at the developing tide of world events in light of scriptural principles and scriptural prophecies. We, all of us, I think, pretty much believe that it was an act of divine intervention that protected Donald Trump from being killed. And it's beginning to resemble a deep state hit, but that's another issue we may be able to talk about. However, I think it was divine intervention that protected him. Now, I have my own disappointments about Mr. Trump and so forth. I'm not trying to politically editorialize. I'm simply saying I think it was divine intervention. And I said I believe that because of their duplicity in their dealings with Israel and because of their moral contamination on one moral issue after another, from pro-life to traditional family values and marriage and so forth, that the hand of God is on the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is under God's judgment. Harris has raised $310 million, by far outraising Donald Trump. The media is on her side. They're lying. They're unbelievably lying. She's actually said that Trump is responsible for these latest unemployment figures. That's how absurd. They're blaming Donald Trump for the border crisis. How absurd. The bold-faced liars, from a woman who's a bold-faced liar, lied to all of us about the mental competence of Biden, her boss. Be that as it may, the liar continues to lie, but God's judgment continues to fall. When the economy gets hit, and it's not just the Fed, which is incompetent. Doesn't matter if it was Greenspan. It doesn't matter if it was the crazy Janet. It doesn't matter if it is Powell. The Fed is as incompetent as it is corrupt and completely unconstitutional anyway. Nonetheless, I believe that what is happening economically and the threat of recession is going to obviously be a factor in the election. I believe that God is allowing it. God is causing it. It is his hand in order to undermine the Democratic Party. They're under God's judgment. Now, I do think, and I've said it consistently, there's a very real possibility Donald Trump could lose, that the RNC is no good It's no better than the DNC. But I do believe the Democratic Party is under God's judgment, and there's a spiritual battle going on. Not that I'm prophesying that Mr. Trump is going to win. He could lose. However, I do see God's hand in this. I see God's hand in preserving his life. I see God's hand in the death of Sheila Jackson Lee. I see God's hand in the calamity that surrounded the Biden withdrawal from the election. And I see God's hand in what is happening economically and with the unemployment figures. I do see it as God's hand. Nate Silver, the statistician, said now the election is no longer favoring Trump. It has become a draw. And of course, most of the polls are rigged. Not all of them, but nearly all of them are, of course, rigged. We can't believe what any of these people are saying, pretty much, limited exception. However, that's not important. It is only important what it says in Daniel chapter 2. He establishes kings and removes kings. I have no doubt that the Democratic Party has made itself the enemy of God, and God has made himself the enemy of the liberal establishment and the Democratic Party. There's going to be a judge on the media, on corporate America, and there is a judge on the liberal establishment. You are seeing a declining viewership in the mainstream media. For the first time of independent, Newsmax was number one of digital news, of digital television news. Newsmax was number one. MSNBC, CNN continue to decline. They're not going to recover. The networks are stagnated. We are seeing God's judgment, and I believe it is going to come on Google, and it's going to come on Alphabet, and it's going to come on Meta. To what degree, I don't know, but I have no doubt that God is going to use the economy to damage the Democratic Party. It will inevitably affect the electability of Harris. But the main thing is to pray. The main thing is to pray that that wicked, wicked woman, that daughter of Satan, is not elected.
Yes.
I would like to add one thing
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
to what Jacob has to say. As much as the judgment is falling on these companies, as much as it's falling on the media, upon Hollywood, upon even the Democratic Party, as the judgment of God falls on them, I would also caution these entities are also being demonically activated. There are demonic forces that are definitely moving these corporations, these institutions, and it goes both sides. Within the government itself, I believe that there is a demonic animation that is happening in both the deep state, left and right divide. When you have the moral relativism on both the Democrat and Republican side, you see them all kowtowing the same nonsense that any 5-year-old that hasn't been brainwashed could say, that's a woman, that's a man. And yet now you have the Republicans playing that same game. That's all.
Yeah, I'm waiting for David. David, did you have something to say? I think you wanted to say something about Ismail Haniyeh.
Oh, I'm all good.
You're all good? Okay, never mind. Now, Jacob, back to you. The another vassal state of the Iranians is, of course, Venezuela, and that is a chaotic state now. Although, despite the election sham that happened over the weekend, they have announced that the U.S. State Department, Anthony Blinken and his has decided to announce that Edmundo Gonzalez, the guy that was opposing Maduro, he's now the president. So it's going to create maybe some stability because it is driving into chaos. The police officers and people rioting on the street because they don't want Maduro anymore. And my question is not only the chaos that's going on in there, how will it turn out? But Venezuela was largely a vassal state, of course, of Iran, terrorist organizations, China,
And
Russia. And now there's a change in leadership. Now there's a change in government, and I don't know if Maduro's going to let it go. He worships Hugo Chavez and his 666 and all that stuff. But I wonder if he's going to let it go, or he is going to vacate, or he's going to continue to get the support of Iran and Russia and China.
They'll try to support him if they can. The question is, will they be able to because of the economic situation in Venezuela? The only one who could save Venezuela would be Biden, who's also already threatened to lift sanctions under certain conditions. He actually was willing to enable Maduro to stay in power under certain conditions. That is how corrupt their own government is. Maduro is definitely in trouble. I don't think Iran, China, and Russia will have the wherewithal to prevent his downfall if it continues the way it's going. But he could have been brought down already. He could have been brought down already. Now we're beginning to see something. Mr. Milei in Argentina, he's doing a good job. He's blessing Israel. God is going to bless him. He will, given enough time, get the inflation in Argentina under control. And Argentina, which is a naturally wealthy country, can see its economy evolve from what was done by Galtieri and the Peronistas and everyone else. He can make a difference. That could be a turning. We've seen Latin America going to the left in Bolivia. We've certainly seen it in Central America, in Mexico, in Brazil.
Big time.
It may be turning now. It may be turning now. Latin America is always in a state of flux.
Yeah.
It's always in some kind of a state of flux. And I think the tide could possibly be turning if Maduro falls.
Yeah.
He was a bus driver. He doesn't know anything about, I'm not demeaning anybody who drives a bus for a living, but he's not an economist. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Now, he had this brilliant idea that if he took out the largest bill in Venezuela, I think it was like 1,000 or 500, that it would just bring prices down. So he took it out just so we can have the ability to, so people wouldn't have to spend much and prices will go lower.
You know, people have tried that. Mugabe tried that in Zimbabwe. I was there when he tried it. It doesn't work.
So my concern, of course, Jacob, is it's having another base, another Iranian terrorist base, which if they've been down in Venezuela, they've emptied their jail cells just like Fidel did. They're sending all these migrants, illegal migrants and terrorists into the United States. So that might be changing for a time. And Jacob, I know you have a real heart for Latinos and you have a real heart for Latino Americanos, and you always pray that the Lord will give us an opportunity to go there and bless the people there and share the gospel there. May the Lord give us that and open doors to go in that direction, because things may be changing in some places. Rain in one place, we're not raining in another place.
Right. But again, it shows you what socialism does and communism does. It turns a rich country into a poor one. That is the saga of what Allende did in Chile. Not that I agree with the actions of ITT and Kissinger down there necessarily, but Allende was no good. That is what was done in Argentina. That is what was done in Venezuela. How to turn a rich country into a poor one. Yeah. Not just a stable country or a relatively prosperous country. I mean, naturally rich countries. How to destroy them economically. And that is what Chavez did. That is what Maduro did.
That's right.
Money talks. Let's not forget something. If it wasn't for Biden, Iran, and Obama, Iran would be in serious economic
chokehold, but they did it.
China is in trouble. Russia is in trouble economically. Their capacity to bail Venezuela out is limited.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, and we'll just switch over right now to the Olympics. I wanted to ask you some questions, Jacob, because I was away and you were in New York. But before we finish with Venezuela, I want to remind everyone when Chavez came into power. I mean, it was incredible. Venezuela is one of the most richest countries in Latin America. I think the gallon was a gallon of gasoline was like 10 cents. 10 cents a gallon. People were living pretty well. The economy was doing pretty well. Then he came in and he decided to make it into all these social programs that he was going to fund with the economy and taxes and all that. And he destroyed it within a few years. But one thing he did, and Jacob, you and I talked about that way back then, is he kicked all the missionary organizations out, international, and he imprisoned pastors and missionaries. who didn't
Yes.
want to leave, and also the native pastors and the native missionaries that were there. He also targeted them. So right away, we saw God's hand being against them, and things went spiraling down. Even though he continued, and God is very patient. He let it go for some time, but then he got that mysterious cancer, died
Yes.
very quickly, and then it's unraveled to this point. So many believers in Venezuela, lots of godly people that have
Yes.
been led to different countries, and including Miami. And I met some of them when I was down in Florida. But so pray for them. Pray that the Lord will give us that opportunity to do so, especially at this time where people are talking about it and want to know more. And then a desperate need. There's a desperate need. Every Latino that I met, this it's a desperate need for the gospel to go into
Yes.
Latin America. Jacob, I wanted to ask you about the Olympics, Paris 2024. What an embarrassment, but they're not embarrassed. They have no shame. They'll just do it. Depravity, sexualization of children at prime time hours of this, I didn't even know what to call it, a nightmare. They tried to mock the Last Supper of Jesus by having pagan gods and transsexuals and transgenders and drag queens, and they had this lady, this bigger lady playing Jesus in the middle, right there with his or her disciples, I suppose. They had it was so bad, even Muslim leaders condemned how they treated Jesus, because they said, well, Jesus is one of our prophets, and you guys just mock Jesus. But the display of the pale horse running through, a lot of symbolism that we're not going to get into it. But your take on the Olympics, bad ratings, by the way, terrible ratings as we speak.
Olympics is, look, it goes back to China. When Beijing was allowed to host the Olympics, and Beijing lied about everything, including free communication. When they had that little girl who was the singer, but they didn't like her teeth, so they voice dubbed her with another. I mean, they lied about everything. And so what did the International Olympics Committee do? Reward them with the Winter Olympics. You rewarded China for lying to the world. The Olympics, they're no good. They need to be replaced, or at least boycotted out of existence. The Prime Minister of France, not the president, the Prime Minister, and the foreign minister said Israeli athletes are not welcome. Now they
What?
came, but he actually said that they're not welcome to come
Wow.
to France. He said that publicly. He didn't have a political punch to enforce it, but he said it. Right away, God's judgment comes on it. They
That's
tried to say that it was portraying a pagan ancient Grecian feast,
Yeah.
not the Last Supper. And there was more than 13 people in it, where Da Vinci's Last Supper only has 13 figures. It had more than that. I don't think that anybody can deny that it was at least trying at some degree to parody the Last Supper. And then they've apologized for it. Well, I don't want your apology. I don't want anything from them. I hope this turns into a money-losing fiasco from which the International Olympic Committee never, ever recovers. I think it should be replaced by another Olympics, another Olympic organization. We should get rid of the one that exists. It is made two not just mistakes, too many bad policy initiatives over too many decades. They need to go. What happened to Russia with the boycott when the after their invasion of Afghanistan? And one of the few things that Jimmy Carter ever did that showed any integrity or gumption. I think that should happen to all the Olympics. I hate them. I don't like them. I like sports. But when you have a biological male getting in a ring with a woman,
Yes.
punching her out, and she quits after 45 seconds. Now, I don't agree with women boxing anyway. But even if I did, to put her in a ring with a biological male and she quits the fight after 45 seconds, I hope the feminists like what they've done, because I blame the feminists as much as I blame the Olympic Committee. This is what happens. Women in sports is one thing. Men pretending to be women in sports, well, this is the kind of world the feminists wanted. This is the kind of world they got. Anything a man can do, you can do. Well, let's see you get in a boxing ring with one. It's horrible. It's horrible. You've got to let men, biological men, go into showers and locker room facilities with women. You've got to have a woman fighting a biological male. A male punch is 162% stronger than a female punch on average. Yet, against all scientific reality, he can call himself a woman and fight a woman. This is the Olympic Committee. This is how sick and absurd it has become. What kind of a woman can compete under those circumstances with a male athlete in any sport, virtually?
Yeah, we've run into best swimmer of women is a male. Best boxer, a male. The best weightlifter, a male. These are in women's sports. Best bicyclist, a male, or at least with XY chromosome, which is how I measure, who's male, who's female. So almost every sport, this is just basically open abuse of women by every phase of every part of government, every part of sports, every part of the world. Women are taking the hits, man, and they fought against this, but now they don't know how to get out of this unless they all stand up and say, "Hey, we're not going to compete against them." Then this is going to continue. But I know why many of the women can't say anything. It's because their scholarships, like at colleges, their sponsorships at in sporting events would all be taken away.
Yeah.
So,
So what David and Jacob are referring to, people don't know, it's that there's an Algerian boxer who is an XY chromosome, and I think his last name is Kafir, and he fought an Italian woman, Carini, and it defeated her in about 45 seconds, punched her. She says he's never been punched like that ever in her life, and she quit. She knew this was not going to be good. And there's a Taiwanese boxer who's also XY chromosome, who also defeated another woman, and soundly. And of course, now it's been a controversial issue. These men claim, or these boxers claim, that they are women, but they are XY chromosome, yet they have a DSD, basically a disorder, differential disorder development. So basically, they look like males, but they are females. And figure that one out. But regardless, the Kafir one, the Algerian guy or boxer, was also suspended before because high level of testosterone. So not only this is the XY chromosome, but he was also banned from fighting women in other places because he has high level of testosterone, is higher than most men. So he could be an XYY. In that case, I don't know about the Taiwanese guy, but he claims to be the same thing. So that's what's being allowed. The Olympics came out and they made the statement. The Olympics Committee said that they don't check for biology that way. They check through passports. So whatever is on the passport, that's where they compete. So the passport says female, they'll go to the female side. If it says male, they'll go to the male side. So they don't get into the DNA side of the story. They figure out the countries themselves where they come from have to figure that one out. So if you haven't watched the video, please do, and I guess don't look away because
So there's
really,
no such thing as fake documents anymore.
no.
well, there's always a little bit of that.
Did anybody see the Muslim guy that refused to shake hands with the Israeli judo guy?
Yes.
Well, about 30 or 40 seconds into the match, he got thrown by the Israeli guy and dislocated his shoulder. And so karma hit right away. But also, many are Muslims are refusing to fight against or to compete against Jews. So,
I'm gonna
It's
come
a
back.
gold medal for them.
Yeah, let me go back to the female thing because they think this the interesting part about it is the fact that this boxer has another fight against a Hungarian woman, and that is going to be, I think it's Saturday, so it'll be tomorrow here from California. So it'll be interesting if the Hungarian woman does a Riley Gaines and refuses to fight because he's an XY. This boxer's an XY chromosome. But Davey, you had an interesting take. Go ahead, Davey.
We froze. Are you there?
yeah.
Oh, yep. Okay. Temporarily froze here. Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about this too was part of the opening ceremony. They did an like a tribute to women part. There was one section where it was where they were honoring women. And in fact, they honored 10 specific women, which were kind of interesting too, because 2 of them were the pioneers for abortion in France. But yeah, so they wanted to honor women, and look what they're doing. They're bashing, basically sanctioning or allowing the bashing up of women. Basically, domestic violence is a sport nowadays.
That's right.
But yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. But even with the opening ceremony, everything was specifically designed and planned well in advance too. Even the music they chose was chosen for a specific purpose. That whole business with the threesome, that was actually to a piece out of the opera Carmen. If anybody knows what the music, the opera Carmen is about, that'll tell you what they're actually trying to convey. The mixing of music styles and the mixing of dance styles. It was all trying to convey a message too, you know, just like music can be fluid. You can mix different styles and all the rest of it too. You can mix different genders and all the rest of it. Everything had a message behind it. But one of the things too, I'm sort of seeing too, you know, and this comes down to, we live in an age basically where the end justifies the means. That's the mentality of the world. The end justifies the means. So it doesn't matter. All that matters is getting that gold medal. And these guys who are getting the gold medal for beating up women, all they're going to be remembered for are being these guys beating up women. They're not going to be remembered for anything else. Winning isn't always the most important thing. It's more important how you win, how you play the game. That is far more important than actually winning. And actually, 2 of the people or groups of people that I admire the most out of past Olympics, none of them actually won. My favorite Olympian probably ever is probably Debbie Thomas, who took out the bronze back in 1988 in the Women's Olympics. Best figure skater I've ever seen. But it was the way she conducted herself, the way she handled herself, and the way she won. Well, put it this way, she was a winner in my eyes because of how she played the game. Another famous one, the Jamaican bobsled team back in 1988. They didn't win, but people remember them, and there was even a movie made about them. People, the one person I'm actually going to remember from this Olympics is that Angela Carini. I'm going to remember her. I'm going to remember her name, and the image that's going to stick with me is her on her knees, broken and crushed. That's what the Olympics did to this poor woman. That's them honoring women. We just got to brace for what they're going to do with the closing ceremonies. It's going to be interesting. They've been well planned in advance. Are they going to change it?
Yeah, this is all done in the name of pageantry and worldwide fame, and bottom line is they hate children because they sexualize them and they groomed them, and those images were there. I mean, these were prime time for kids to watch it, and there's nothing more horrific and perverted than that. And they hate women. And look at that, Davey, you're right. It's Olympic sport. It's to domestic violence on women's an Olympic sport now. So it's perversion, it's abuse, and it's being paraded as something wonderful that brings the world together. If that's the world, they can keep it. They can keep that world.
You know, you're saying all this now, but wait until the Olympics are held in Los Angeles. I mean, Sodom in 4 years. Then you're really going to see something.
Oh yeah, it's ramped up. I remember the 2012 in London, how they did that monster and that figure and all the anti-biblical images, anti-Christian images, and now it's here. 2026 is going to be 2028. Sorry, it's going to be even worse. So speaking of the UK, Jacob, I don't know if you've seen this documentary, but it's called Silenced. It is produced by a independent journalist named Tommy Robinson, in which he speaks about how everyone in the UK, including himself, is being silenced about the real issues that are going on in the UK. Now they have a new Prime Minister, Stammer, who brought out his statements created by the WEF and basically condemned British citizens that are opposing the what's going on in Southport and what's going on in other places. But this documentary is very interesting. If somebody hasn't watched it, please do. Protests by British citizens, 35 cities, more coming. It's a national thing, even though Southport is in the middle of the country, a little bit north. And now they want their country back. And now it's perhaps the globalists don't want to give it up that easy. And the Muslims, certainly in those countries, don't want to give it up that easy. But I'm going to turn it over to Jacob. Jacob, the killing of those 3 girls in Southport and what unleashed from there is the protest of British citizens, and we want our country back. But they're being silenced by by ITV, Channel 4, the BBC. They're not getting the word out. We can only see by independent journalists what's really going on. And unless you live there, you won't be able to see it. But no, they don't want mass migration, legal immigration. They don't want these no-go zones. They want their country back. And Stammer comes out and says, we're going to put the Hooligan Act on you, and we're going to surveil you, facial recognition, if you are protesting. Over to you, Jacob.
Well, what you have here, Tommy Robinson, his real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. And I would urge people to just watch online his interview, the interview he had with Jordan Peterson. It's well worth watching. And the film, Silence, is well worth watching also. But his interview with Jordan Peterson encapsulates what's really transpiring in Britain, which has ramifications for other countries. We have to remember that Britain still has influence transatlantically on the United States. It has influence on Australia, New Zealand, and in various Commonwealth countries. So it's not just Britain, it's British influence. Britain still does carry influence internationally because of the English language and so forth. Be that as it may, this African immigrant, Axel Mugnea Ruta Kubana, he stabbed 8 children, murdered 3 little girls in Southport, which is basically a retirement community north of Liverpool, an area I know very well. I've been to Southport many times. I've taught Bible studies in Southport. Not the kind of place these things would normally happen, but every little town and village is being invaded. Above all has been the Islamic invasion. You have video clips of Muslims saying, we're going to kill Jews. We're going to find Jews and we're going to kill them. And the police standing there and doing nothing, while they threaten to murder Jewish people. In Rotherham, Muslim gangs, criminal gangs of Muslims, were pimping off underage English girls. And the police were prevented from doing anything by Labour Party politicians. People have had enough. You had the failed policies of the last conservative government, which was not really conservative. That opened the door for Starmer to get in, who's a socialist. What you have is what you have in the United States, only a British version of it. The same is Garland and his not-so-fine FBI, the Federal Bureau of Intimidation, were putting Christian parents on terrorist watch lists because they objected to the homosexual indoctrination of their children, young children in schools. And the response of the Department of Justice and the Department of the Department of Justice and of the FBI, Federal Bureau of Intimidation, which is just a political Gestapo now. It needs to be dismantled and gotten rid of. You have a British version of that. The people who are standing up against these immigration policies and against this toleration of radical Islam that beat an old World War II veteran from D-Day within an inch of his life from walking through a Muslim neighborhood because it's their Islamic turf that they're claiming in the name of Islam. A lot of British people have had enough of this. Nigel Farage warned there would be a reaction. And if Labour wins, the reaction would happen quickly. Well, so far, Mr. Farage has been deadly accurate in what he's saying. There were protests in 35 cities. This weekend, there are an additional 19 cities. But of course, the British government and the mainstream media, the BBC, which is bias, blasphemy, and cowardice, are saying that these are right-wing extremists. most of them are not right-wing extremists. All they are is British patriots who are tired of Islamic bullying and intimidation. And they're tired of the parasitism of immigrants coming from Muslim and African countries taking social benefits away from British citizens. The corrupt British government has now designated 117 million pounds, like $180 million to mosques to protect themselves from British extremists, as they're calling them. Well, Muslims are allowed to parade through the streets and say we're hunting down Jews to kill them. It's an outrage, and there is a reaction. And this reaction will continue. And it will not be limited to England or to Britain. That is what is happening. He just got into office. Unfortunately, it's time for him to resign.
No, I agree, Jacob. The fact that they're doing all this, and they pull out the Hooligan Act. This
Yes.
law has been in the books, maybe not that long, maybe in the 80s they pulled it off, in which they're allowed to ban certain things, ban certain banning
Yeah.
order.
Unless it's a Muslim threatening to murder Jews, that's allowed.
Yes,
The Hooligan Act will never be enacted against Muslim radicals.
that is true. Like if you're remember those Jews, the 3 students that were walking their dog, and they were going to
Yes.
kill their dog because they were walking their dog and they didn't like dogs, and obviously Muslims went up to the police and says we're going to kill their dogs, those Zionists, and they went looking for them. This was a crazy thing. But Stammer says he's going to put more police. He's going to criminalize specific behavior. Notice that specific behavior, not the behavior of
Yeah,
violence.
self-defense. It's going to criminalize self-defense,
Yeah.
defense of your family, and defense of your country from radical Islam. That's what he's going to criminalize. National defense.
Yeah, increase surveillance and monitoring. So more of that. It's if you haven't had enough of that. If there are legal and ethical concerns that are brought up by someone, if you're threatening them, you can bring that up. In summary, it's a universal application of the football hooligan laws, but it's going to be used on citizens, on patriots, and of course believers who don't agree with what's going on there. And it's going to be a significantly increase in control. More and more control from the British government. So it's going to curtail freedoms and maintaining the order.
Yes.
Faith recognition will be everywhere if it hasn't been. But welcome to the Islamic State of Britain. That's what we have. That's what we have. And it's a shit.
Pandering to Islam. That was the legacy of George Bush in America, certainly of Obama, certainly of Biden and Harris, and certainly of Starmer in Britain.
Yep, absolutely. Jacob, but the same thing that we see in Britain, and a change of election, a change of government, could that happen here where maybe not a change of government, but a continuation of this here in our country? We got U.S. elections. The fundraising of Harris has far outpaced anything Trump has done. And within 24 hours, which was kind of there's some shenanigans there. She brought in millions of dollars, $200 million or so in $100 million in 24 hours. But in 24 hours, she raised that much. It is $81 billion, in 24 hours. So quite a bit of money coming in. The war chests are all open. Silicon Valley is all open. They're funneling money into Harris, even though they're using, what is that organization that they use? Think Blue or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. Act Blue, I think.
Act Blue.
Act Blue, which is known for a lot of money laundering, let's put it that way. And thank God for guys like James O'Keefe, who's able to uncover some of this stuff. And you should watch some of the undercover videos that he's done. But when confronted, they all don't have anything to say. But bottom line is $310 million by Harris, $139 million by Trump. Jacob, first question. Are we supposed to believe that Harris is that popular?
No, of course not. It's being politically orchestrated by the mainstream media, by Silicon Valley corporate interests, and by the Democratic Party and by the deep state. Of course, she's not that popular. I point to the film just released by James O'Keefe again of DNC Chairman Joyce DeSera stating that Kamala Harris is, quote unquote, weirdly unpopular.
Yeah, but
I think we have to assume that Biden did not want to be pushed out. And in response to being pushed out, he pushed Harris in his place, knowing she would be the weakest candidate, which Barack Obama did not want her, because
Yes.
Barack Obama knew she would be the most defeatable. But now they're stuck with her, and in their desperation, they must do anything they can to promote her. I watched one corrupt imbecile. He was an imbecile, but he was corrupt. He was corrupt, but he was an imbecile, saying that we should stop talking about her past. We should forget about her past. Can you imagine somebody running for president of the United States and you're supposed to forget everything about them? Such as the fact that she lied. She lied pathologically that Biden was compos mentis, knowing he wasn't, knowing she lied. Yet this means nothing to MSNBC, nothing to Joy Reid, and nothing to Scarborough, nothing to Chuck Gerard. I'm not Chuck Gerard. What's his name? Todd.
Todd.
Was a singer, musician. Nothing. It means, yes, sorry, Chuck. I know Chuck is a nice guy and is a good musician. It means nothing to them. The fact that she lied and is a proven liar, a pathological liar. She lied and lied and lied about Biden's mental competence. And we're supposed to overlook that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to vote for a liar, a proven liar. And if you don't ignore the fact that she's a proven liar, you're a racist. No, you're an idiot and a racist.
David Lister, we know some people that are behind the campaign there of Harris, and she definitely poses a threat, but she's got a couple people that are pulling the strings there, besides the Obama, besides the Valerie Jarrett and Eric Holder. She got some family members that are actually quite evil, but quite astute.
Well, her sister's a pretty smart woman running the campaign. Many say writing her speeches. She's doing a good job with reading her speeches. She seems like she has the capability of doing that, but as soon as you put her in front of a camera and to answer questions, sorry.
There you are.
As soon as you put her in front of a camera and ask her a question, she goes into the word salad, mumbling, and she was with Biden, who looked like he was not quite there with the prisoner exchange. She had to explain everything, and she gets in these loops, and you can't figure out what she's actually saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like, we're here with China, and, China and the U.S. have to come together because that's where we're here. And anyway, that's the reason why we need to come together.
Yeah, and it's interesting. She had that big thing that we can overcome our past. I think if you remember that. But that
was that?
unburden ourselves from the past.
What can be, unburdened by what has been. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a Marxist chant.
Yes.
Stalin used it, Mao used it, they all used it because they wanted to be unburdened from the things. So the people that were righteous before they took over, they wanted to be unburdened by those things. One being the 4 old laws of China, and so she's definitely a Marxist. Her sister seems to be, family's a Marxist.
Yeah.
And there's new video of her father repudiating Kamala for smoking pot on, and bragging about it. He says brought shame to the family's name.
Oh, man. David, let me ask you this. Does she represent a threat to winning the election?
Well, look, I don't look at her as a threat, but she represents the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party's will that a Democrat puppet gets put in place. So,
and the reason why I'm asking that question is because we could all laugh about her, her lack of intelligence in certain areas and all kinds of things, and the way she got up there with, the staging couch and all that stuff. But besides that, she's really evil. She's really evil. And
Yes.
so when somebody is that evil, no matter how stupid they may be, you have to take them seriously. And I wonder if the GOP is not taking her seriously, and people are saying, well, she's so dumb, she can't win, because all of a sudden,
No.
the smart money is running to her. It's 53 cents on the dollar, if you want to put it in betting terms. And Trump is 50 cents on the dollar. So you can imagine she is a lot, at this point, a lot of money going there, popular, as it were, within certain circles. But she's using Hollywood, and she's using these the praise singers and rappers to connect with the youth. And but nonetheless, it is something weird that's going on, because she's going to continue the same policies that it's been going on for the past 4 years.
Probably worse policies, because she is openly pro-Palestinian, and that's very concerning. And also, her policies are even further left than Biden, if that's possible. And also, at least Biden could make up his mind when he was comptus mentis, but now she will do whatever the puppet master says to do.
Yeah, I'm going to go over to
That's
Jacob
what
real
makes
quick. Yeah, Jacob, the Biden wanted term limits on the Supreme Court and ethics code in the Supreme Court. To David's point, that she's going to be where she's going to continue on and pile it on, and she wants term limits and ethic codes on the Supreme Court, sort of like Roosevelt.
Yes, absolutely. Look, the term limits are one issue. Many people of both parties, and even many conservatives and libertarians, want term limits. But that's not what it's about. They didn't want term limits when the court was weighted in their favor. It's only when the court had a conservative majority that it became an issue with them. It's not about the principle of term limits in itself. It's about loading the court with left-wing judges. It is about trying to use political means to control the judiciary instead of having any kind of constitutional constructionists, to be able to have agendaist judges who can legislate from the bench in circumvention of the Constitution. It is an attack on America. It is an attack on American democracy. It is an attack on American constitutional republic government. That's what it is. That's all it is. Simply stated.
Yeah, so now we have Harris, who is 53 cents on the dollar, probably appointing some judges if they get a chance to do it, if they pack the courts. But now you got these white dudes for Harris, Jacob, white dudes for Harris, raising over $4 million for her on Zoom calls and getting white guys, because they said, well, not all white guys are going to vote for Trump. And I didn't want you to watch the video, but you could watch it. And but it just seems like it's just a bunch of lapdogs calling for Harris to be president. They want abortion. Buttigieg was there. What's his name? Pete Buttigieg. He was there. And he was saying, well, the one thing she's going to do great is he's going to give us more abortions, because that's what we need to have in our nation. These guys are absolutely
70% of the abortion mills in and around Black communities. What you need is more dead Black babies. Vote Harris.
Yeah. What about the
Buttigieg is a homosexual married to a man.
Yeah, no, yeah.
These are the white dudes.
What about the prisoner exchange, Jacob, that they're doing? Both of them are now, Biden and Harris, involved in that, and the 9/11 terrorists. That's being swept under the rug right now, because it's all about the largest, I guess it was the largest dozen-free multinational prisoner swap since the Cold War. But yet the 9/11 9/11 it's being swept under the table.
Evan Gershkovich from Wall Street Journal and 3 other Americans were being held unjustly and wrongly by Russia. This is true. They were exchanged for Russians that included an assassin, a murderer. It included real spies. Why did this happen when it happened? Quite simply, it was there as a smokescreen to divert attention away from the deal that Biden, Harris, and Garland cut with the September 11th attack leadership, that they would not be charged with capital crimes after killing 3,000 Americans. They would not have to pay with their own lives. There was a reaction from the victims' families accordingly, and I have family who are victims, lost a close relative. people are enraged. So it's an election year. So what do? How do they draw attention away from this issue of letting these September 11th attack leaders who planned it escape capital execution? Well, you have to have this prisoner exchange the next day in order to draw attention away from it. And the media, of course, will do that. That's what they're there for, propaganda purposes. This reminds us of the Bo Bergdahl mess when Barack Obama took 5 of the most dangerous Islamic terrorists out of Guantanamo and let them go to save this homosexual AWOL soldier. Complete disgrace. He should never have been exchanged for 5 terrorists. Never. But this is what the Democrats do. Now, remember that Harris herself said we need to have the courage to stop using the term radical Islamic terror. What? Who was responsible for September 11th? We need the courage? No, you need the brains to call that woman what she is. One of the few people who has called her what she is the Afro-American television judge, Joe Brown. I respect Joe Brown. He was on TV with some interviewers from the Black American community. He said he knew her and her father. They were Asians. They were not represented as being Black. He said, as a lawyer, he represented whores and pimps from Hollywood. He said that she got her position, as everyone knows, by committing, by Willie Brown committing adultery with her. Former mayor of San Francisco, Speaker of the California State Assembly, sleeping with the husband of a Black woman, okay? That's how she got paid in political endorsements. Judge Joe Brown told the truth. He said she is a paid hoe, a paid whore. That is exactly what he said as a Black American being interviewed by Black Americans and Black American media. She's nothing but a paid hoe. He said that's what she is. Political couch casting, which is exactly what I've said from the beginning. You have prostitutes on Santa Monica Boulevard get paid in cash. You have Harvey Weinstein's panderers who get paid with bits in movies. They prostitute themselves. And then you have a political prostitute who was paid by political endorsements. She is nothing but a paid whore, a pathological liar, and frankly, a cackling idiot. That's who these white dudes for Harris are voting for. They're voting for a paid whore, a proven liar, a proven serial liar, and a giggling moron. That's who they want to be president of the United States.
But very evil, Jacob, and she's got the gates of hell right behind her, pushing her along. So this is my concern. The David Lister, real quick, this has led to the thinking, because since Harris is experiencing perhaps a honeymoon stage and the polls and going up and figuring out that she's more popular now, smart money saying she'll win, has led to the thinking that perhaps the GOP, the Republican Party, will swap J.D. Vance, which really hasn't brought any real surge in the polls or any. It stayed flat, relatively flat, maybe a little bit down since he became vice president or announced to be vice president. What do you think? They're going to swap him out? Maybe somebody that can counteract Harris?
Well, it would be a rough job to do. You know, that would be very politically. I mean, I know Schreiber was swapped out during the time when Dukakis ran, and he lost very badly because people said, you picked the wrong guy. So it's a very dangerous move. But also, the thing is that as soon as Biden, as they coronated her, all the media went for her. So it seems like, this coronation of her to be the president has just sat, getting all the publicity. So right now they've got this period where they can adjust maybe and then get JD back on track. But it's going either way. It's going to looks like going to be a little bit tough.
No, it's going to be, yeah, really tough. And plus the media outlets, the social media working
Yeah.
really hard. Then you mentioned Maya Harris, and that's all being done by by the side of her family to promote her as evil and as incompetent as it is, but nonetheless, it's still evil. Big tech is
No,
making
another
sure.
thing they're doing, another
Yeah.
thing to pump up is that, and it was mentioned a little bit, but it quickly went silent, is that they have the ability, some millionaires have the ability to run a program where they send $20, $50, $100 by the tens and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, this is the Act Blue. Yeah, the Act Blue story.
Yeah, and so they run it through it, and it actually like comes through somebody, but they never made it. They made the donation, and it's
Yeah.
a way of covering up illegal contributions. But
Yeah, this is what James O'Keefe was uncovering in Maryland. People were donating, and they're on the payroll on the list, but they never donated it.
yeah, they've all probably been Democrats in the past. They kind of know, hey, if your name is used, just keep your mouth shut. We're all in it together.
Yeah, social media is doing that. Just as we finish, social media giants like Google and other Facebook are
Yeah.
using this idea here that we forget what happened to Trump. And this is they got castigated online for this, but who knows if it's ever going to change. You can't find Trump's assassination on the Google search. You couldn't find images. You can't find anything unless you actually type it all out. It will be coming up on your search engine. So it's not an autocomplete at all. And so are they trying to make us forget it? I know they're facing a big backlash on it. But what's interesting about it is they're suppressing this and promoting Harris. Of course, we see the gig is up, right? And are they going to be? I mean, this is where people look for, who's going to win, that kind of thing. So this is Google, this is Facebook again, and
They did that.
Go ahead.
There was a term we used as a kid. They did it accidentally on purpose.
Absolutely. And they were even downplaying the fact that Trump met with Netanyahu. I want to ask Jacob this because Netanyahu was here last July 24th, I believe. He addressed Congress, and then he met with Harris, and then he met with Biden. And of course, they came up with this outlandish statement that, Harris was old, brokenhearted because of what's going on in Gaza, and she wants an immediate ceasefire. And of course, Netanyahu said, this is going to compromise the hostages, because if you're saying this, we have no leverage. He addressed Congress. Tlaib was there with her sign, war criminal, more of that same thing. And he called, people that support Hamas, he called them useful idiots. And they got that standing ovation from Congress, from most of Congress, I should say. But Jacob, Trump met with them and he says, look, this is what's at stake. If I lose, which right now it seems like Harris is more popular. If I lose, there's going to be a war, a major war. If I win, you may be able to stop it. Economy, Israel, and a lot of things at stake. Jacob, what's your take on the meeting with Biden and Harris, with Netanyahu, and Trump and Netanyahu?
Netanyahu was clever enough to know that the Biden administration could not, and Harris could not be as openly anti-Israel as they really are ideologically and in their allegiances. They know that. He knew that. And he's playing that card. He went aggressively because he knows they cannot respond at the present time because of the election, the Jewish vote, and because of the stupidity of so many American Jews who will pay their own train fare to Auschwitz and sew a yellow star with their own jacket. By the way, I have a Jewish family. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm just telling the truth about stupid left-wing Jews who support Biden and Harris. In any event, Netanyahu knew that. It's a time where he has to do what he's going to do now. Because if Harris wins, the United States is going to raise its hand strongly against Israel the way Obama tried to do. and fund Iranian terror, um, as Biden and Obama certainly did, of which Harris is responsible. So that is the essential outcome of what happened. Netanyahu knows he has to act now. He went into Iran. He did what he did in Iran, taking out the head honcho. He knows that after the election, the ramifications of that would be very bad for Israel, in terms of the support of the United States and Israel's quest to survive. Remember, she is pro Islamic radicalism. She said we need the courage to stop calling Muslim terrorists radical Islamic terror. She's a wicked, evil woman. She's an enemy of America. She's an enemy of Black America. She's an enemy of Israel. I believe she's an enemy of God. She's a wicked, wicked woman. I come back to it. A proven liar, a proven whore, and a proven idiot. The worst possible combination. Yet the establishment has her as their stooge.
Very evil, very evil. Interesting. Netanyahu brought something up, Jake. I don't know if you mentioned it before. It's the idea of creating a NATO-like alliance in the Middle East with the U.S. and Israel and other nations in there. I thought it was really interesting, bringing this up at a time like this where they need some kind of alliance, and we don't know where the Harris-Biden administration will be if they happen to win. The Obama administration, part 3, would happen to win. But I thought it was interesting that he called for that kind of alliance right now at a critical junction in Israel's history. What do you think?
I think it's an interesting proposal, but I don't think it's likely to happen anytime in the near future. The only way anything of that nature could materialize is if perhaps Trump won and there was Abraham Accords extended into some kind of a strategic cooperation between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf states. That is the only avenue.
I think that has to be taken into account for sure. Because they're opening up an office and a liaison office in Jordan later this month, which has to do with a strategic alliance with other Arab nations. So I think it's really interesting that may be an extension of America into the Middle East. But I don't know what would happen if Harris and Obama win. I don't know if that would happen. I think Israel's alone.
Yeah. Well, let's understand something. You've got these political left-wing pastors, the ilk of Jeremiah Wright, who are trying now to present Harris as another Barack Obama.
Yeah.
You know, Barack Obama, the guy who saw Black American family incomes decrease by $900 after 2 terms. He was no friend of Black America. He bailed out the Wall Street banks. What did he do for his own people? Put them on the breadline? That was Obama. But again, they play the race card to manipulate people to vote for him. White liberals will vote for him because he's Black. Black people, many of them, most of them, will vote for him because he's Black. They don't look at the actual facts of how he's failed America and he's failed Black America. Well, it's the same thing with Harris. The fact that she's a liar, a whore, an idiot, that doesn't matter. It only matters gender politics, race politics, identity politics is all that matters to them. That's the card they play. And that is essentially what is happening.
I think the most important part is she's not Donald Trump. For most Democrats and most leftists, it has very little to do with filling in the DEI. They don't even believe in that. It's just a pony that they show that they believe in. Really, it comes to the bottom line. She's not Donald Trump.
And that's all they care about. That's all they care about. Jacob, as we finish off, just leave you with one quote and you can close us out because we're going to the backstage with all the questions and questions are coming in right now. We appreciate that. Trump said it was disrespectful for Kamala Harris to call for a ceasefire like this. It'll cost Jewish lives. I actually don't know how a Jewish person can actually vote for her.
Well, he's absolutely right. But I mean, she wants dead Blacks.
Yeah, she wants dead Jews too.
Dead Black lives. And why does she care about the Jews? I mean, she wants dead Black lives. Pro-abortion. Look what this woman said. After a police precinct was burned down, She said that the rioting is going to continue and it should continue.
Yeah, she was bailing them out.
It excluded her from any political office ever in the future, but they just don't care about the facts.
Yeah.
Don't look for justice from man. Look for justice from God. The most important thing in this election is going to be prayer. The most important thing in determining its outcome is going to be prayer. Everything is based on identity politics. You had this young guy, Jonathan Lewis, 17, kicked to death by 9 Black young people. Some of them, as young as 13, were allowed to be charged as juveniles with manslaughter. But four of the older ones are now going to be charged as juveniles only with manslaughter, not with murder. Why? Well, this causes racial division. There's no justice. They don't care. The fact that she is letting illegal immigrants come across the border and take jobs from Black people, particularly Blacks and Hispanics, they don't care. They don't see the facts. They don't care about the facts. They don't vote with their mind. They vote with their own bigotry and their own stupidity. This is what's happening. This is something we need to be aware of. A film showing that Thomas Crooks was moving on the rooftop that before the shooting, taken by one of the people who were shot, proves that the United States Secret Service was lying. They lied to the public. They lied before Congress. It proves they lied. We couldn't see him from the roof. Here's the film. They lied. A Secret Service sniper, a whistleblower, said, expect another attempt on Donald Trump. This is getting to look more and more. I said in the beginning, what happened to Donald Trump, at best, happened under the incitement of the Democrats and the left and the media, enabled by the deep state, at best. Second possibility, the administration is trying to hide the fact that there was Iranian involvement because Iran had made a similar threat on Trump. That is a possibility if this guy Crooks was somehow associated with Iran, but that is a weak case. That is a weak case. There's no strong evidence for it. The third possibility, this was a deep state hit, and they're going to try another one. That is what it is really beginning to look like. They will do anything to keep Trump out of the White House. The swamps who inhabit, the rats who inhabit the swamp want to preserve their environment.
All right. All right. We'll see you guys on backstage. Thank you, Jacob, Jay, David, Davey. We'll see you backstage. Questions are coming in rapidly. God bless you guys. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.